I'm Steve Derz. I lead corporate M&A at PwC in EMEA. So PwC is a network of professional service firms that are independent member firms owned by their partners active in those territories. So with those territories, we have 3 lines of services. One is audit, tax, legal, and advisory. And in that capacity in EMEA, we're doing round about 10 acquisitions a year. So over the last 3 years, we did more than 30 acquisitions in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And it is interesting, obviously, to see your perspective as well. When you asked me to join and invited me over to do this webinar, it was like the natural first reaction is like, this is a conflict of interest because Equiteq is a sell-side advisor. We're potential bidders. How does that fit together? And it is actually, if you look at the process of really a good and successful acquisition, is bringing 2 parties together. And that is why I said that is definitely something where also PwC as a potential bidder benefits from these contacts and the exchange. So more than happy to be here.
Oh, excellent. And I think we highly value our relationships with active buyers like PwC in the market. I think from one angle, it just helps us with understanding where there's a fit, with your strategic objectives and our clients' businesses. Also, when we, are agreeing a transaction on behalf of our clients, just to ensure that we can work effectively together to, execute these deals. What is PwC's approach to acquiring companies?
So for us, it is in almost all of the cases that we've looked at in recently, it's like broadening the scope of our services. So really making sure that we're hitting the agenda, hitting the objectives of our clients, like really helping them. And for that, we need to have a broadened scope of service. In most parts, in a lot of territories, we have that already, but clearly we have still white spots, especially in the innovative ones, when we're talking about digital consulting, when we're talking about cybersecurity, but also technology consulting, system implementators. This is really, for us, the key where we can guide our clients from not only developing a strategy and knowing about the business, but going all the way and making it actually happen to have a solution there. So for us, that is the number one reason why we're doing this. And we're looking at, if you ask me, what are the targets that are most attractive for us, I'd say in a size-wise between 50 and 250 FTE, just because those are typically the growth patterns where shareholders and management of professional service firm start to think about building up an additional layer of corporate infrastructure. So if you're 50 people company, you know more or less everyone, but if you want to grow to 100, then you might want to hire someone that takes care of HR or that looks at all the invoices paid. And same as in 200, 250, if you reach that milestone, you might have covered a certain area, a certain market. Let's say in Sweden, you're the number 1 provider in cybersecurity, but you want to go into other territories. You want to maybe even do more, maybe doing more on the strategy side and have a package offering. And this is where we come in, and there we also see the most traction when we're speaking to owners of consulting firms.
With respect to business attributes and characteristics of some of the companies that you're looking to acquire, what are some of the metrics and some of the characteristics that you're focused on looking at when thinking that a target business might be a good fit for the network?
Yeah. So PwC is a strategic, or the member firm is a strategic investor. So for us, revenue per employee is a good indicator of the maturity of the business and also on the value that the client gives to those services that are provided. So it's a good indicator to have that. Obviously, profitability is also important, but that follows largely really the majority of the services, and also the market. Is that market ready in order to have that, or is it still very much growing and that eats the profitability? So there you really have to see. But if I would have to name two, then it would certainly be revenue per consultant and the profitability connected to that.
I think one of the points you mentioned earlier with respect to intellectual property is interesting. How, a lot of buyers are looking for IP in lots of different forms. How do you look at IP as supporting a consulting business?
So when we're looking at pure consulting, there's two categories of IP. One is the IP that the consultant uses him or herself in order to be a better consultant, to be more efficient, to be, for example, a faster auditor or more efficient tax advisor. So those are really the tools that the consultant has. That is highly interesting for us because that makes us better consultants, delivers better results to and bring that to our clients. If we're looking at developing a software and then selling it, that is not a turf where PwC is really good at, and that is something that would rather limit our interest, I would say, because we're simply, from an organizational standpoint, and also what we're doing, we're really people and talent driven. So just selling out software would not be a business model where we would feel comfortable or experienced in.
One of the other aspects that came out of our buyer research findings was with respect to qualitative metrics that buyers are looking for. Yep. Quality of management, clients, having a quality client base, noted as being particularly important, and also intellectual property, which we've discussed. Yeah. How does that resonate with what you typically look for?
I would say very well. It confirms for us, management is also, or talent in total, right? But management as a key indicator that we're seeing is really crucial in order to make an acquisition a success, especially as we're looking to go and enable leaders within PwC to continue their path on a broader mission. That is something that is for us a key component, and also can be a deal breaker if you don't feel they're committed or there is a mission that they're willing to execute together to go to the next level. Is very difficult for us to do that with a crew that is basically coming from the outside and get into the PwC culture. So for us, leadership is a key component. Access to client. Most of the acquisitions we're doing is really demand driven. So clients asking us and say, why can't you do this as well? Why can't we do this as a package, and then we'll look at it all together? So access to client for us is not a direct reason for doing an acquisition, but of course it is a good quality indicator of the work they're doing already. So for us, having access to client, unlocking maybe new clients and new industries, that is usually the easier part, but we need to have something that is working and proven to be experienced, because once we open up that client portfolio, it needs to be scalable, right? So it needs to work, and they need to, the target would, or the company would need to demonstrate that they're able to cater to the needs of a certain client portfolio themselves.
One of the things that clients often tell us is that what PwC offers, which is unique to many other buyers in the market, is the deal structure, and particularly non-cash components within consideration. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you approach structuring transactions?
Yeah. So if we're looking at PwC as a potential acquirer, and we're looking at say a profitable, sizable consulting firm joining, in a sense, then you could think of it two ways. One side is that was historically created by the founders, by the management, by the shareholders that comes in, they bring in those shares, but also if they get partners at PwC, they become shareholders in that member firm and benefit from that. So that entrepreneurial spirit is actually something that is highly appreciated with committed shareholders and management that want to continue on the next platform, on the next level for their people. So this is where we get really a lot of feedback. Obviously, with PwC as a brand opens a lot of doors. We have established connections to almost every company that is out there on C-suite level. So getting appointments, getting into the right conversations is much easier when you're coming with PwC, and that is a factor on top of that. Plus, that maybe as a last point, the career opportunities that you offer your next level. A lot of shareholders we're talking about, a lot of owners, they have succession plans coming up in the next couple of years. So that is a brilliant opportunity to offer, for example, international career opportunities, but also like really for your the next level of management to step up and have a case for themselves to develop forward. So those are usually the items that are appreciated when looking at PwC as an acquirer.
We noted particularly strong demand from private equity, in our last buyer survey, and we discussed a bit of that on the webinar.
Yeah.
Private equity are, increasingly investing in the consulting sector, and we're noting them being, aggressive in the market for deals that they want to do. How does PwC compare as a buyer in comparison to, a private equity acquirer,
Yeah.
and some of the deal structures that they might offer?
Yeah. So there's two ways we see private equity when talking about professional service acquisitions. First is obviously as a seller and exiting prior investment, and the second one as a competing bidder. When we're talking about the competing bidder, it is very early in the process that it becomes clear, is a shareholder in a company just searching for financing in order to get their capex demand met, and basically want to do their own and have then maybe an exit or a sale coming in 3 to 5 years, or they're looking for a new platform and they don't want to do it all themselves, replicate and build a brand themselves, and come to a strategic investor where they could join up into a group and have maybe the support also of experienced guys that have done it in other areas, in other territories. So really competing in the sense of an auction, that is rare for us to see, because simply the decision is either you want to go for a strategic new platform, or you want to have just the funding available, and that is done usually quite early in the process. So in DD phase, I would say there's rare situations where I can say we're head to head with private equity.
One of the drivers that we saw as part of our buyer research was a demand among strategic buyers for broadening their service offering and also building depth in specific industries and also digital capabilities. How does that compare with what you're seeing?
Actually, it compares very well. When we acquired Boost, which is now strategy and this true strategy consulting piece, that was the first component to broadening the scope of service. We have very, very good strategic capabilities, identifying issues, finding solutions, addressing solutions within PwC. We have the knowledge, the talent that can assess processes that exist within our clients. But a lot of times we get asked about going all the way, for example, user experience. And we call that BXT, where we're really combining the business side, the experience side, and the technology. And especially when we're talking about the X and the T, so the user experience, the creative side of it, of making it happen, and the technology side of really being able to have the skills and the talent to complete that mission and just making it come to life. That is something where we're continuously working on via acquisitions, but also organically hiring talent, investing into building and building talent, training, and where we have great credentials already. But going all the way, I think that is the key component for our clients, because in the end, what we see is that the client wants to have one advisor that really stands for the proposals he's make, going all the way and will work in the end. And that is exactly what the Big T approach is about, that you're going in there and you going on a mission together with your client to identify the issues, to apply them in the processes, but also making it happen in the end, so they could actually see what the solution is and come to life with a better result for the client.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for your time today.
No, it's a pleasure being here, and if there's anything I can help with the perspective of a potential buyer, let me know.
Thank you.